This is the Media and Mind podcast with your host K.W.H. Dare to see the gray. This is episode 4, Infiltrators within the Truth Movement, part 2. Yeah, we're gonna leave off of where we last ended the show from last week. So we ended with Alex Jones. We'll probably just talk a little bit more about Alex Jones. But before that, I'm just gonna go over some current events and some updates on the show. First off, first I want to make it clear too, because I think I don't know if people might be thinking when I say about a new republic, from the other shows that we're talking to, it has nothing to do with the movie Star Wars, the New Republic, or anything like that. So I just want to just wanted to clear that up. It was just a coincidence. I didn't really relate those two together. I'm not. I don't even think the Star Wars one is the type of New Republic I was talking about anyway. So just wanted to clear that up. So. I just check my notes here. Let's see what we got here. So yeah, it's been a lot going on in the news. So last week here. So let's go over some of the stuff here. Okay. So yeah, first off, I want to like last week I didn't. Um, I don't know if I did a very good overview in the beginning about the dangers of infiltrators within the truth movement, and the first thing I kind of want to point out is just imagine that we did we hypothetically did fight a surgical revolution and we were actually successful, and then like the French Revolution, these people that come in that try to infiltrate it, and then they derail it and take it over, act like the good guys, like they're actually helping you, and then land up, making another a corrupt system again, and putting himself into power, and trying to screw around, pervert the rights again, and all that. So. And that's why it's really important because these people they will act like your friends. They'll be for your movement, and a lot of times these guys are groomed for from when they since they've been like teenagers or kids to do these movements. I learned about the John Birch Society. It was actually been around for a long time in the 1950s. I think it started, and it was very similar to what Alex Jones does with Infowars. So it and basically what the operation was when you dig into it is it's basically a trust to gain trust from like higher IQ people. Like the mainstream media is for low IQ people that they can easily control them with, but with people with higher IQs, they have to like give you a little more, a little more truth to it. And I think that's where Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, people like that come in because they, for people more intelligent, they don't fall for the mainstream media narratives. So Alex will give you a little more, and then for and then and then he'll appear to look like he's trying to help you out, but that last 1% he just twists. So and I would say like if you're going up the ladder, I'd say yeah, the mainstream media is like the lowest point you can go, and then you know when you go up to Alex, you go up to Alex Jones, that's like a little bit higher IQ. And then you go up to like David Icke or Michael Asarian or something like that. That would be like really like high IQ people. That's probably about the highest level that I know of now. Well, actually, now we'll talk about that too. How it does go higher in that, even unfortunately, even David Whitehead is and not as not as much Michael Asarian, but at least he was a little neutral on it. But he does seem to be swaying that way, both, but primarily David. We're going to talk about tonight. But yeah. So there's gatekeepers even in that that level. So above that is I think it's like autopilot. So we'll go more in that. So let's see here. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna share a some of my posts from Facebook. This kind of summarizes this a lot better. It's basically what I think it was like maybe 5 months ago. I was trying to give an overview of what I that I wanted to do this show because a lot of stuff wasn't being discussed and specific things that people were ignoring in the gray areas. So this is something I said about the infiltrator. So let's share that screen. Take my video off here. And this time I'll do the last time I forgot to share the sound, check the share sound when I was doing the share screen, and that's why the audio is real horrible. So I had to do a lot of like 2 hours of editing and get the actual clips, imported right into the editing software instead of going to the internet. I had to kind of overlay that. So hopefully this time I don't have to do that. So I tested it out before. It should work here. There's not really any sound in this part, but later on we're gonna have more. So let's go to the internet, sharing screens. Okay. So yeah, this is a post right here that kind of explains, the main topic and why it's so dangerous. Okay. So this is what I posted on in February 3rd, 2024. Once I get the cabin done, I'm seriously thinking about starting my own podcast. I feel there's many topics and gray areas not being discussed in independent media. I want to even interview people that disagree and hate me. LOL. I'm also going to talk about topics that I was blacklisted for on other podcasts. It angers me that some of these so-called independent podcasters supposedly standing for the First Amendment have the nerve to still blacklist topics they don't want to talk about because they're afraid to lose money. In my podcast, I don't give a shit about money, and all topics are allowed to be discussed, including what I like to call the cloned revolution. And I will do the best to redirect the real revolution back to the right direction. I want to remind people what happened when the French Revolution was hijacked by fake revolutionists with agendas. In my podcast, I will expose these infiltrators and how to easily spot them. Many of them are already tricking the people and currently on center stage, and some of them, of course, behind the curtain. Tim Pool, Ben Shapiro, Joe Rogan, etc. I will fucking destroy your half-assed, deceitful narratives. Yeah. So yeah, that's something that so that gives you kind of an idea why one of the main reasons I created this podcast because I was tired of these people hijacking the revolution, and going down the same road to the NWO. So yeah, I mean, and I'm very concerned that if people there's not a hypothetical, physical revolution here, that pretty soon is that they're gonna build it. They're going to be finished building their digital prison, and it might almost. I mean, I don't think it's ever impossible, but it would be very hard to revolt then. So I think these guys are just wasting time. They're wasting your time on purpose. They want you to get back and vote in a two-party system that goes nowhere. So it gives them more and more time to build up their system that it will be almost impossible to resist. And that's what Alex Jones and Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson, and all those kind of people are doing. They're just trying to waste time and bid, in my opinion, to give time to the gatekeeper. So yeah, it's okay. So yeah, and another thing. Here's a couple other posts I did about infiltrators here. I just searched the term infiltrator so I could get the post that I wanted here about that topic. So yeah, obviously, I mean, a lot of people know these people are you know definitely um, controlled opposition infiltrator. Uh, this post, actually, I'll probably be talking about this. We'll be talking about this in the future, actually. I mean, we'll go over this post, but there's actually some updates to this. This is something I suspected, and my dad actually warned me like, when I in the early 2000s, like I've been in this for, like 20 years, since I was 18, but, into other paranormal stuff when I was a kid, since I was like, 5 or something, talking about ghosts and aliens and stuff. The government political stuff and independent stuff. And I was independent since I was like 18 years old. And so, in the mid 2000s, early mid 2000s. Alex Jones was, he was pretty big then, and not a lot of people knew about it, but it was getting bigger because he started in '97. So I used to go to his site a lot, and check it. I mean, well, actually, pretty much weirdly, I kind of went in the reverse, and instead of first, I actually found Michael Osarian and David Icke first, and went down that route. And then later on, I found Alex Jones for the more of the political and government stuff, and that kind of stuff. So, um, but one thing my dad warned me back then, he told me that don't go to those websites because you're gonna leave. They're gonna know that you're leaving you're basically you're leaving an IP address on Alex Jones's server, and then later on in the future they could, hunt. They would know who the dissenters were, and they could, eventually hunt them down. And um, one of my friends on Facebook, Donald, I don't know his last name, but I'll check it out. I'll give him credit for it. But he found a guy warning about something called Project Pogo and Project Zephy, I think it's called. And that's exactly what they've been doing. They've been, especially if you use your real name. I use like a pen name, so I don't, you know, I don't use my real name on these things. But if you do, they can easily find you. If you don't, you've got fake names, and they have to search you by IP address, and it's a lot harder to find people. And sometimes they can't find them. So that's why you want to be more stealth about this. Um, so it's really concerning. So anyways, so my dad was, long story short, I blew him off then. I was kind of too prideful, and I just didn't care. And then he was that, but from that guy exposing that project, that's exactly what they're doing. They're collecting your names, and they're letting you put things on here so they can hunt you down in the future. So yeah, I mean, some of it's too late. It might be too late for me. But just keep that in mind. Like you want to be undercover. So let me read this post, and if anybody hasn't seen it, it's an excellent series. Turn Washington Spies. I mean, it really it shows like kind of that they were a lot more sneaky. They didn't just do stuff. They pretended that they were working with the British, and they're spies. They had secret messages and stuff. They didn't just do things out in the public like we are, and most of us here, doing this right on the internet here. They had groups that they went to, tavern and stuff, and they had messages and stuff. So it's kind of a lesson of what people need to do, because they really like people to they like people to um just be obvious and come out and show who the heroes are, and storm in there because it's easy for them to catch you. But when you use their use stealth tactics like they do, they fucking hate it, because it's really hard to find you. So that's the lesson in this post. So okay, I advise everyone to use a fake name and a VPN, especially if you have skin in the game. The name I use here is my pen name. It has nothing to do with fear. I don't see any reason to make the enemy's job easy finding me, and it pisses them off beyond belief, and I find their frustration entertaining. My dad warned me about potential infiltrators posing as freedom lovers when I was a teen. Individuals or parties of people who collect names and IP addresses and most likely sell them to the Satanists, or other government, not just Satanists, but other government officials. At the time, it was Alex Jones' Infowars site I visited often. I blew him off then and was too prideful to take the precautions. However, after studying how the Revolutionary War was fought, and that many used code names, coded letters, and met usually at private locations, my mind was changed. Many did not advertise that they were rebels. This was portrayed in the brilliant series Turn, which I highly recommend for freedom lovers to watch. The psychology for a long time has been you're a coward if you use stealth tactics. I think this is the enemy that's programmed this into people so they can easily identify them and eliminate them. Passio says about how much smarter and more organized the Satanists are compared to the freedom community movement, but for some reason he doesn't want us to use the same tactics that they use regarding code names. They mostly do have fake names, and this is why a lot of them are successful at pulling off their agendas. And we'll probably get into Mark Passio at it. It might be a part three. Like I don't know if it's gonna be next week. But we'll get into that. And but just real quick, why I pointed that out is because he's kind of weird. He has a class for to how to like make podcasts and stuff, and natural law and stuff. He has a course, and it was some weird thing where he didn't like that people were using code names. It didn't affect him. He still could send their address, but he was saying don't use your fake name, and I thought that was a little weird. I was like, well, what do you want to know their real name or something? So anyways, well, we'll get back to that. So it's another thing, um, but yeah, I think that pretty much summarizes why this is a big problem. So so okay, just checking my notes here. Okay, yeah, yeah. So we'll just go over a couple more current events here. So Trump is still, obviously he's still funding Israel, and he's funded weapons to Ukraine and all this, and he said he was going to end the war and all that crap. So that's that's still going on. So if he just cut the funding, they wouldn't be able to do anything. And I mean I know Russia, but I know Russia's like not completely innocent in this. I'm sure Putin's kind of halfway involved with this, but really, I mean, I just, to me, the Ukraine thing that was Russia's land, and Zelensky is just a complete piece of shit that I could care less if Putin totally took it over. And the only thing holding them back is Trump and the government keeps on funding them, giving them more weapons to fight the war. So that's been pissing me off. And I think we kind of said it through the other episodes, but yeah, Trump is actually one of the biggest infiltrators. So fake patriot president. I kind of went over that. I go into that with my book, and how they needed people were losing faith in the two-party system, and in the 2015, and especially young people are getting sick of it. So in my book, I believe, and now it seems to be that that's the case, that he was a plant, to try to try to look like he was independent, to try to lure people back in a two-party system, and now he's more Republican, or he's just basically going full Republican and just bring us back into the Republican Party. So I think that was his main reason, and because, like, he gets away with uh people let him do more things than would with the Democrats. So, and believe me, I have no love for the Democrats. I haven't voted for anybody since 2016. So I didn't vote, and I didn't vote for anybody in 2020. I didn't vote anybody in 2024 because none of them deserved it, in my opinion. They're both scumbags, and uh, and that's why. And like I said from the other shows, I want to get rid of the two-party system. So completely abolish it, and probably most of Congress too. So just have people directly vote on the issues with that clause I had. So that's the end. And another thing I wanted to point out too, because I never really hear anybody say this now, because they're even David Knight, he mainly that, sometimes I listen to him. He's saying that these numbers aren't adding up, like there's not as many illegals really being deported that Trump is really saying. So when you start really digging into the numbers, and my other question, I mean, I know some of them then they arrested, but really, I mean, if I had the money, it would be great. If I had money, I mean, maybe I'll start something for funding, maybe for me to go undercover and basically try to follow these. I don't know how, try to follow these ICE agents and see where are they really putting these illegals and these kids. Are these kids really going back to their parents' homes or safe places, or are they just moving them around like the Titanic, some other, and fucking, raping and killing these kids somewhere else? Like, how do we really know where these kids are going? Because there seems to be a lot of things. So I would, if somebody could do it, or myself, a journalist, but basically follow after they apprehend these people, follow where these kids are going and see if they're really going to the right places. And so I think that I just don't know. I just don't really believe it, because I know the elites love little boys and little girls. So I think I don't think they would get rid of that. So, and especially Trump now, like a couple months ago covered up the Epstein thing. And so, it seems like I don't think he seems to be, definitely seems to be a pedophile. So I don't see why he would stop that for his little buddy. So that's okay. All right. So yeah, we're gonna go, we're not gonna go much into Alex Jones here. Um, but, there is one thing I did want to point out here that was really creepy at what he um, referencing the blue pill of the Matrix, this methylene blue. So let me, I'm gonna show you that post. Search it here. It's probably pretty far down now. Okay, yeah, here it is. Yep. So yeah, this is actually, when was this? Okay, so this was around June 15th. And Alex Jones, he actually aired because he's been pushing that crack, the methylene blue, blue dye stuff from the 1800s actually stains your brain blue and everything. And people are saying you can't detox it or something. So, and something about it allowing more nanoparticle absorption, like almost like it's an AI, like Borg thing. So, but anyways, yeah, he's been pushing that product, but here, what's really creepy is he had basically he was using the clip from the movie The Matrix and and comparing, and as from reading, watching The Matrix, the blue pill is basically how to stay in the Matrix, and then the red pill is how to escape it. So instead of, you would think, Alex represents escaping the Matrix, but instead he has it as a blue pill, which is like to stay in the Matrix. So I think it's very symbolic. And he only aired this commercial for 2 days, and I don't know if it was me, but it seemed very weird because I was the only one that made a big deal about this. And then he just took it off. He stopped airing it. And usually he'll air commercials, for a couple months, same ones, So, but he just, as soon as he got attention to this, that he just took it off. So I'll read you that post real quick here. I was watching Alex Jones a few nights ago. This is a video and screenshot of a new add-on to his methylene blue commercial. He shows a clip from the Matrix movie where the infiltrator and traitor Cypher says, "Why oh why didn't I take the blue pill?" Now remember, the blue pill represented staying in the Matrix, not escaping it. I very strongly believe his commercial is not by mistake and is meant to symbolically represent InfoWars selling out to the Matrix. Methylene blue equals blue pill. Remember, Jones massively supports Elon Musk, is most likely getting funding from him. Yeah, I would point out that um, I don't know, it was maybe a couple years ago, there was some like ridiculous, like 500 million or huge amount of money that was donated from an anonymous Bitcoin owner. So that they're saying that might have been Elon Musk. I'm not totally sure about that, but from his Joe Rogan connections and all that we went over, it does seem, you know, um, it seems likely. So most likely. So okay, and here we go. I'll continues. I read an article recently about methylene blue being used to promote nanoparticle absorption. It basically slowly changes your brain into mechanical nanocircuits. Do not take this crap. He's selling it like crack on his website. And a few months ago, he admitted he was receiving AI medical treatment from Musk. Yeah, I think it was like last year. He said he had somebody on and he said, "Oh, I'm doing AI." He was using AI and stuff that Musk created for his medical stuff. And he said he was taking his stuff, and so yeah, it was some weird stuff. So, and we know how Musk massively supports humanism and the AI agenda. Stick to natural organic medicine from the earth. Do not poison yourselves with man-made molested synthetics. And that's another thing. Like we'll get in that more. We did kind of go into the drug issue And I just want to let people know I'm not like a big drug pusher or anything, and I'm definitely not a hard drug user or anything. And my biggest pet peeve is I really do not like synthetics. Anything really man-made, I am not, especially when it's weirdly genetically, created or genetically altered or anything like that. I do not have I don't have any need to take. So I've seen a lot of people get fucked up from that kind of stuff. Fortunately, including my brother and my friend. So like really, I think people should really just stick to natural, organic medicine from the earth and not man-made shit. So. I mean, still got to be careful. I mean, there's poisons out there. Like you can't like they're not all nice, but yeah, I see people when they especially get involved with synthetics, it really fucks them up. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that. So. Okay, yeah. So I have, I'm just putting some things that we might have missed from the last show. Um, so I'll put the video back on here. Yeah, so what, yeah, just adding some things that I kind of missed that skipped over last episode here. So yeah, like one thing, early on that I really was suspicious of Joe Rogan, like around, I don't know, like 2018, 17, is when, he first had Alex Jones on his show and and he and the first thing he did was he made Alex apologize about the Sandy Hook fake trial thing. Um, and and it was ridiculous because a lot of the ones that really knew about it knew that it was actually a fake trial. It was a fake shoot, and there was supposedly there was no kids that they found that were killed, and the parents did seem to be actors, and allegedly, let's say, I'm not saying, but it looked really suspicious. I think the most suspicious thing was the father that was playing both roles as like an actor, and he was playing a SWAT team person. I forget his name. We can go into that, more detail later. But yeah, he was caught, dressing up in his SWAT team uniform and being the father at the same time. And you find out the parents were actors or whatever. So anyways, like, so yeah, Joe Rogan, it seems to be part of that, trying to keep that false narrative coming. And again, last show we talked about how Alex Jones, him getting sued from that, talking about it is also fake, and how I don't know, it's basically to scare people away from talking about it, and I think it's just to get people to feel bad for him. He thinks he needs money, so to buy stuff at a stupid store. So I think that's the main thing. But yeah, so just wanted to add that. That was one thing that pissed me off about Joe Rogan. I knew I was like, yeah, yeah, right, Joe. And so okay, that one, and then yes. Okay, I think we went over this before with the Matthew North, but the major funding to Joe Rogan is Elon, which is funded by the Rockefellers. So, and he has a lot of Elon people, and they're kind of behind the scenes pushing that. That's where his money is coming from. Okay, so yeah, we did go over Elon Musk a little bit there. I think we went over the scams and stuff that he was part of in the past. And also recently there was a news article um talking about how some of these companies that fired all their employees and turned everything to robots are having major problems with this stuff. So, and again, I don't know if these are Elon Musk's robots. I think some of them are. I think the main ones are his. But anyways, like, just like everything else he does with his fucking EVs and his him stealing ideas from other people and then making it fail, and the scams that he's involved with. It seems that this could be at least partially like it wasn't ready. He knew it wasn't ready, but he just pushed it out there like half, like what Microsoft does. They 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 set out a product that's half done, so that isn't done. So I think that's what Musk is doing, and this robot thing could be a partial scam. I think it will be refined later, but I don't think it's as fast as he wanted it, or that's on purpose, just to but anyways, yeah, that is funny. So it's not just because they have these plans doesn't mean it's gonna they're gonna be successful. I mean, in um, the Roman times. I mean, I know, supposedly they had less technology. I don't know, maybe not, because some things that I researched in the past seems like sometimes they were more advanced. But anyways, like if they were, I mean, Rome tried the same thing. It tried to take over the whole world, most of Europe, and it was too much to control. There was too many, little parts in it that they couldn't control everything, and they lost control of it. So it's very likely that these people are going to fail, but it's just a question of what's going to be left what after they're done with it. You know what I mean? Like if they're going to, hopefully they don't have nuclear war or something like that. They don't fuck up. What are we going to be left with after their stupid fighting? So that's the main thing I'm saying. So, yeah. So, what was Oh, yeah, something funny I did want to show here is and it actually is true. But yeah, Elon Musk he is highly connected to Israel, and he's also seems to be a Mossad agent. So yeah, there's actually a funny picture that shows exactly he's like a bitch to this other guy, this top Israel agent or something. So I'm gonna show you that. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So this is fine. So yeah, oh yeah. Area in Manuel. I don't know. I can't pronounce the name, but Israel intelligence. Yeah, this guy is a real fucking scumbag. So and so anyway, but yeah, but he controls Elon Musk. So they say he's basically like the lower idiot. He's like the global village idiot. So I thought that was funny to kind of. But yeah, so he has major connections to Israel. So he's a scumbag. So yeah, we went over the scams with him. Yeah, the smart city thing. I don't know if we talked about that. Him and Trump. I warned about that in my book before it even happened, and I actually Elon Musk and Trump were the major people that brought it in my book too. So that was before it happened. So people are interested in that. They might be, but yeah. So that was pretty weird. Actually happened. So yeah, him, and Trump changing it from instead of calling it smart cities, he cleverly called it freedom cities. It's the same thing. So what the Democrats wanted, Elon Musk. Okay. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So we covered those guys. Now, okay. So what we're gonna get into now is um yeah, I didn't have time to I ran out of time last time, but yeah, as everybody knows, I was on Enslaved in August of 2021 for my book, A Patriot's Rebirth. And at first, Michael Sarin. He was the one that invited me on. It wasn't Dave. Dave did not have anything to do. And actually, Dave even made a comment when I was, before we did the show. He was like, "Well, I'm not the one that, it was Michael that did. I didn't say to have you on or whatever. I don't know why he said that. Well, now I kind of know, but anyways, it was Michael because I gave him an email and I said I was writing a book, and he was really impressed with the chapters and everything and what I was writing. And so he had me on the show, and at first it was really good. And again, I want to say this, Michael's watching. I want to say I still appreciate what you did for me, getting that out. That was awesome. First podcast being on Unslaved was like, was really awesome for me, and it did help me boost the book. So I want to at least thank him for that. And I want to say I don't. My anger is not really so much with Michael Sarin so much. It's with David Whitehead. primarily because he's the one that I feel is the one that was cock blocking me from coming back on the show for petty reasons. So anyway, so I was on the show and and I talked, how I didn't like Trump, but I was, cordial about it, and I wasn't nasty about it or anything. I was respectful, and I said, well, yeah, I can see how, people, he did look like independent. I could see how people would, it's a real punch in the gut or whatever, I said on there, but and Dave kind of like as soon as I said stuff about against Trump, he kind of got this like sourpuss face on there, and he kind of left, and he was scrambling to look up research and try to counteract me or something, and that was a little weird. So, but I don't know, I thought it ended pretty good. They didn't seem like too weird about it, and then yeah, and then you know um I think it was 4 months later, I asked Michael, I said, oh, because they said they would have me back on after they read the book, so they could, really dig into it and, have me discuss it. And he just, I asked, so, well, when do you want me to come back on the show? And he's like, well, I don't know, we're kind of busy, it could be, 6, 7 months or something or whatever. So I was like, whatever. So I kind of forgot about it. But then like around I think it was January or something, I started seeing, David, he was really pushing Trump, and he started kind of talking about how if people didn't like Trump, you were basically a black pillar. That's what he was calling. Like if you didn't like Trump, you were a black pillar. And I just thought it was weird. Like even Michael, he seemed a little like he's yeah, now he especially is still up Trump's ass, and I just don't really, and like when I went on the show, with Michael, like, when I used to like listen to him, like he was didn't give a shit about the two-party system. Like that was basic 101 conspiracy. Everybody knew that they were both controlled, and nobody gave a shit. Nobody liked either one of them. So when I came on there, I didn't think I'd be walking on eggshells, about the fucking two-party system, so that was really weird. And I was like, wow, it's like they really getting conservative to the right, that's strange. I thought that was weird. And so yeah, and then Dave was making these comments, about people being black pillars, and then there was another guy, I forget his name on there on Unslaved, and he was a voluntarist anarchist. And like yeah, they never. He also made the mistake of saying, "Oh, well, crooked Trump" on the show. You know, Trump is crook. Kind of making a pun off, with Hillary, crooked Hillary. And yeah, Dave got really pissed off about that, and I never saw that guy back on either. So basically, if you don't like Trump, don't expect to come be back on Unslaved. So 'cause that was like 4 years ago. So it's like just recently, I think like 2 months, I saw Dave, he's still pushing him. And after the Epstein thing, after the Israel thing, and it's just, I was like, what the fuck? Like, how can you still, being that smart, how can you still support this fucking guy? It's so freaking obvious at this point. It was obvious even, I think, like 2019. But you know so then now, so I really think that, this, I think, especially Dave, and well, they both, Dave knows better. He's smart enough to know about the two-party system. So it's like willfully ignorant, but it's almost, I'd say, take it a step forward, it's like willfully evil. It's like, I don't know, it seems to me he's just selling out, and I'm not going to be part of that. And fortunately, my future books, my new editions of my books, I feel embarrassed to being associated with them. So I'm going to be taking the Unslaved name off, my books, the credit in that and all that, just because so people know that I'm not part of them anymore. So, because a lot of their audience, there's people been dropping their subscriptions. They've been pissed off about it as well. So Dave really wants to, save his show. He better get back to the balance, and back to conspiracy 101 stuff, that the two parties are just complete. They're the same thing, and they're, because yeah, he's obsessed with it, and we'll show a clip of that. he's just obsessed, it seems, in the last, especially 6 years, with neoliberals, the left. That's all he's obsessed with, and they definitely are a problem. I don't disagree with it. I think it's disgusting what they did with kids. The fucking, I mean, like I said, I think a lot of these pedophiles. I think it should be a lot more harsher punishment, and I think they should be nullified. I think it should be all cut off, from them. I really, 3 years, and especially like 3 years. So I don't I can't stand fucking pedophiles. So I'm very disgusted what the left did with, putting a transgender in the school and pushing the pedophilia stuff and all that. So I'm not anywhere a fan of that, but I know, it takes two to tango, and it's not the left, it's the right too. And the right's sneaky about it too. I like been finding out, allegedly, what's his name? General Michael Flynn, some weird, and even Trump, some weird stuff that they were hosting tranny, they were supporting the trannies, and yeah, Michael Flynn specifically, something with the tranny thing, he was real supportive of, and so they're sneaky, it's like they're fucking pedophiles too. A lot of, not all, allegedly, a lot of the Republicans are fucking pedophiles too. They're just fucking sneaky about it. So that's what Dave is just concentrated on. He's not being balanced about it. He's on the left. Everything's the left now. So I think he's controlled. I'm not sure. He is connected with, well, indirectly, I guess, but Sethicus is one of his, like, he comes on a lot, and he's connected to one great network, which is controlled by Mark Passio. And we'll get into other part, because that's going to be a lot to go over. We're going to talk about that, but how, yeah, he's definitely another controlled opposition, and so yeah, we'll go into that. But yeah, let's finish up the Dave thing here, and I'll show some clips recently to see, to show you what the kind of been going on in there. Let's see. Yeah, so when one thing he's been doing is he's really been kind of almost indirectly, almost defending Israel, like crazy. So, and again, I know it's not everything is Israel, so I understand it. There is the Black Brotherhood, and there's the Sabbatean Frankists that infiltrated, all three major religions. So, Christians are definitely involved with this, Muslims are, and all, but the Jews definitely are a major player in this, or certain types. That's what he doesn't really. Um, I learned that there's a group of Talmudic Jews seem to be actually the problem. There's just certain sects of them that are really bad, because that's where they're like talking about killing children and the pedophilia stuff and the Goya and all that crap. It's that dark part of the Jewish, part of the fucking Torah, or whatever the fuck it is. And that's where that's actually where a lot of the sick stuff was. So, and Europa, this documentary I watched recently, they discussed that the I don't know, I don't know enough. I'm not going to say this is solid fact, but he claimed that Hitler was not against the all Jews. He was just certain sects. He didn't care. He wasn't against the Christian Jews, but he was against the Talmudic Jews, which were doing sick stuff and killing babies and killing women and doing all these weird dark arts and stuff. Um, so they're gotta have to dig into that too. But see, Dave doesn't really say that. I think his primary reason is because he's up. Trump is basically a savior, and he's up his ass. He do no wrong. Is that you know because Trump has been supporting Israel, he's getting pissed off about it, and he's getting pissed off. People are pointing it out, and he doesn't want to admit it. So I think that's why he wants to kind of sway you away from the Jewish subject, or certain sects of the Jews. I want to be, or Sabbatean. Well, he talks about Sabbatean Fracas, but I think even Michael and them, they try to, like, um they try to make it like it's only about the Sabbatean Frankist. Um that they're the only ones, and I don't believe that. I think there are certain sects of Jews that are really bad, especially Zionists, and stuff like that. And then the Zionist Christians are kind of in bed with them. So it's kind of, so I think it's so there certainly are a big problem. They do control things. So I think we have to get that straight. But anyways, yeah, let's go to his this is one here. He's like, this is his big rant about, Israel and all that. And again, I know that, but it's the way he's been doing this Trump thing, I think he has worse intentions. We'll just listen to that.
Child predation. This is something that has gone on in every culture on planet Earth. So if you want to just say, oh, the Jews are into pedophilia and everything, yeah, where's the number one consumption of pedophilia and child porn? It's in America, the Christian nation, as we're told. And then what about the priests in the Catholic Church? Are we going to talk about that? What about Islam? You want to go there? You want to talk about child predation and where we learned it? And the actual statistics where we have numbers and names and faces happening right now in communities all over the West.
And see, this is what's stupid. Like, the only person talking is Dave, and then the rest of them, they don't even look like they even totally agree with him. So, I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the whole show. It's like, he really is. He gets really, this is a sore subject for him.
Documented, not some ethereal thing where we found a scriptural text from 2,000 years ago that is going to ascribe blame to specifically one group as being guilty of that. Take the quote from Solzhenitsyn where he said, it would be nice if we could just point the finger at this one group and ascribe all of human evil to that group and then just rout out those evildoers and be done with it. But he said, here's the issue. That can't be done because the potential for good and evil strikes to the heart of every single human being. And when you want to start pointing a finger at one group and making it a collectivistic argument, that's the other way I know this is bullshit, is you're not an individualist. You're not about freedom. You don't represent the values of America or the West by ascribing collective blame to a group of people. When we understand that evil strikes to the heart of every single human being as a potential, that means you have to go individually based when you're looking at crimes that take place.
Yeah, and that is, like, primarily that is true. I mean, like, he's telling the truth. Like, you don't ever look at anybody as a, like, black and white issue or, a collective, because that's where, killing them. But again, like, what I'm saying is pointing out the gray areas with him in between. If you watch other stuff and his support for Trump, I think more of what it is because he just doesn't want you focusing on that. And like I said, with the other things with the left, he just focus on the left and just blinds you from the right. So that's not balanced. So I wanted to point that out. So yeah, and another thing he got, which I thought was deceptive, if he was he was talking about, I don't know, it was a couple months ago, and he was talking about the Iran thing, and how, and again, I want to make this clear too. Like, I do not think the Palestinians are little, like, angels either. But again, I don't like supporting either side, innocent people from either side getting killed. And so I'm not gonna, and I'm especially not gonna support Israel, which, we know the Rothschilds did that. They put it there. They bought that land and put them there for a reason, to cause trouble in the Middle East. So we know, so the whole thing is kind of, Israel's always been an abomination, and they've been there for, it's only, I don't know, like 80 years or something. Iran is much older. There'd be a lot much to be lost. I don't want either one getting, destroyed or anything, or any innocent people. But I'm just saying, Iran would be, that is, would be a big loss to history or archaeology, Sumerian artifacts, and I think there is a lot of good Iranian people. Not, maybe not the government. And anyways, I pointed that out because he was trying. Oh, the Iranians are a bunch of psychos, and he was talking about that radical group in the government for Iran. I think it's Muhammad or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it. Um, but when you start, but what he failed to share with people is that those psychos that are in Iran were installed by Israel in the 1970s. And I said, hey, moron, those, they're, that, right? They installed them in there. Those are Israel plants, in there. So how can you blame Iran for that? So, and then he just blocked me. He didn't even try to defend himself, nothing. So I find that. So yeah, we're in real bad terms, me and Dave, again. So, and like I said, and I have been seeing, even he has been not getting a lot. I can tell been some infighting with Michael Sarin too, because some of the things like he says, I think he's even trying to for a while almost making like Michael was kind of like starting to be a black pillar, because he was at least neutral on it, and and he's a little more, he's just more realistic. We're just more realist. It's not that we're, and what he like misrepresents is, just because we don't like Trump doesn't mean we're black pillars. We have hope for, like, I have a hope for making a new republic and getting out of the two-party system. So that's not a black pillar. That's somebody that does have hope, but not going to waste time with the two-party system. Like a system that doesn't work, like doing the same thing over and over again is definition of insanity. Like, why would you keep on doing it? So, but this is just a tactic, and Alex Jones uses it, and the alternative media, the fake ones, will do it, and they'll blacklist you from it. So that's why I have actually been. I probably would have been out there more if it wasn't for that. So, and that's why my book has been blacklisted, and so all that stuff. So anyways, yeah, let's go to yeah, this is a part. I'm gonna go back to 10:30. So this was surprising Michael, Michael Sarin, and this was a little depressing. And again, like I said, I know the Palestinians are not perfect, but he basically makes it. I'll do a summary on this. He basically he um he basically says that that it wasn't really the Palestinians' land, which and but this is the Ottoman Empire, which I think was like the 1500s or even older or something. So, I mean, if he wants to make that argument, that's kind of the same thing with the Native Americans and then the people, the generations that lived there. Like, how is it their fault? What their ancestors did. So, so I don't think it's an excuse, and he's kind of giving an excuse almost to the Rothschilds of making Israel like, oh, that was no big deal, but really, I mean, when you really dig into it, they really did want to cause trouble, and it was made to stir up and instigate problems in the Middle East on purpose. So it was an abomination to put in there. So anyways, but I'll show you what he's kind of Michael has seemed, to went the other way with this, and I think it's more again that they don't like because it's an issue because Trump has been supporting it, and I think they don't like them pointing it out. So here we'll see what he tested. I'll show you what they say about it.
The Hadith and all of the other scriptures of Islam burned into their brains centuries before the Christian word was even able to be critiqued, let alone understood. And then the role in Islam of Jews and Christians is a whole other story of oppression and imperialism and murder. Then if you move up into the 20th century, the whole forming of the state of Israel and what was there before it, this nonsense about Palestine being owned by Palestinians, all of this nonsense, or the Jews have stolen the land. Stolen land from who? If you know anything about history.
Yeah, see, I mean, that's where I kind of disagree with him. I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, in the Ottoman Empire, yeah, they weren't. I guess it wasn't their land, but recently, right now, in the last whatever modern time, last couple centuries, they were settled there. So when the Rothschilds came with the Balfour Declaration and came in and tried to create Israel, they were causing trouble with them. So I don't agree with him that it was basically no big deal. So I think I don't know. It's kind of a half-ass and kind of thing to me. So
you'll know that land was a part of the empire of the Ottoman Empire. It's called an empire because it wasn't theirs. They invaded it. These are the Turkish Ottoman Empire. Does anybody know even what that entails and who ran it and where it came from and the internal feuds that made it? And then the fact that what we call a Palestinian or any kind of Arab tribesmen of the time, they were told to live there by the Sultan of the Ottoman oppressive, murderous empire. You didn't claim land to own it. There's no blood rights or inheritance. You were told, hey, guys, you are going to take that land. You live there. You do your sheep herding and, we apportion you there and you'll do as you're told and you'll live where you're told.
Well, so they did give them, the Ottoman Empire did agree for them to settle there. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's still, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess they took it. But again, just the point is the Rothschilds are trying to stir up trouble again with creating Israel. So I think this is what they're kind of trying to ignore. So
choice is not a matter. There's no Palestinian had any rights to any land. It's a myth. So then you have to ask yourself when you know the facts. Oh yeah, and then later when it was made available, through the Balfour Declaration and things like that, it was purchased just in exactly the same way that California was purchased legally and properly by America from the Mexicans. But then you say, how come I don't know that? How come that's never been taught? Well, we should know by now. Look at the state of Harvard. Hasn't it all come out to the public ear? What is the state of education in America? So there's that piece now. You weren't told it because you were never meant to hear it. This is all based on a need-to-know basis. And most of people, while they're following P. Diddy and the Kardashians, they're not picking up books on the Ottoman Empire, are they? They couldn't care less about it. And they're watching PBS and NPR to get their headlines, or the gutter trash of CNN.
yeah, and I will agree. Like some of the Palestinian groups here in America, doing the riots and stuff like that, that they are like most likely funded by, George Soros groups and Open World Society and other leftist groups. Like I'm not discounting that. I mean, and they are, they do their radical stuff, so that they're not balanced either. So I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just simply saying, we're not supporting blowing up women and children and kids from either side. So I'm not getting into it, and I will not support Israel, especially because they parasite our money, our tax-paying money. I don't know why our money is going there anyways. If I was ever president or whatever, I would make sure that they were every country would I would cut the funding and I'd let them rot. That's their fucking problem. I'm not so that's my main anger with Israel anyway. We shouldn't be in there. I don't like the dual citizen congressmen being Israel citizens. I don't like any of that. That's even against the Constitution, having foreign adversaries in your government like that. You're not even devoted to America. This is a huge problem. So that's why I get angry about it. But again, I'm not blinded by, the Palestinians are wonderful people either, so.
See, one thing leads to another. These are all dominoes. Who's going to pick up the chain and find out what's really been going on? And so, unfortunately, this is not just a matter that indicts the ordinary person. It's right up the political ladder, the totem pole, that people in the senior positions of government don't know any of this history either. They bought the doggerel. They bought the surface idea. And this is the same with the Clintons and the Bushes and all that. Why do you think that Biden and Obama pacified Iran for all these years and gave them billions of dollars to facilitate? And why is it even more sinisterly? You have so-called conservative podcasters and influencers, people like Mark Dice, Paul Joseph Watson, and others of their ilk, absolutely contradicting themselves on a daily basis by taking the side of these alarmists and even preaching this anti-Israeli gospel. Don't you know that by doing that, any educated person can see your petticoats? Because the two people I've mentioned and the other ones like them.
Yeah, and that's probably true, that they're on the other side. But again, see, you listen to more Unslaved you recently now, they don't, but they won't really talk about the people, the pro-Israel influencers too, like getting $7,500 for each podcast for Bibi to support Israel. So again, this is where, like I'm saying, it's unbalanced. Why doesn't David ever kind of talk about both sides to keep it balanced? So that's where I get annoyed with it. Like that it does seem like they have an agenda to take the focus off that. And I'm not saying like a lot of this is true. I'm not on the other side, but I think I'm saying they're only focused on that. And that's usually when people have an agenda.
Are on paper, when you look at them from American point of view, meant to be conservatives. In fact, some people would even call them far right. Maybe that's too much, but they were conservatives and they're on the right. allegedly. But don't you understand? By telling you that Iran is a good guy and has no ill intent and is just some faraway war 7,000 miles away, they're aligning themselves exactly with the extreme left wing in Israel. Now, do you not spot the contradiction? Those left wingers, whether they're in Israel or America, hate the two people I've mentioned and their ilk. So what is going on here? Somebody's got their wires crossed. Yeah, this all comes from this lack of knowledge. So from whichever angle you look, there's something really off. How can you call yourself an American conservative without this knowledge of Islamo-communism? How can you go that wrong? Well, maybe you're not going that wrong. Maybe you're being funded by the very underground group that I'm talking about. And that's why you have your message, and that's why you suffer no sorts of shadow banning.
Okay, that's the end of part two. We went way over here. I might break it down into another episode. We'll see what happens here. So I just wanted to share my links here, how to support me. I'm just going to share the screen here. Okay. All right. Oh, and one thing I did want to address here, yeah, so like last week, I'm not going to mention their name because they were going to be a guest on the show, um, but they got all pissy about apparently calling me a grifter. So I just want to let people know that I'm definitely not a grifter. I only have about, I just started this podcast about 3 weeks ago, but I only have 33 views on this podcast. I'm not big into selling stuff or anything. Like I said, I might have, stuff that products that I trust, that and that are organic and and I know aren't like scumbag type of products. I might do that in the future. And another thing is what this person got annoyed with, and I told him I was open minded. I would discuss that with the guest. But some interviews, I figured, they'd be, like, it would be an hour, but maybe the next, I'd cut the other 30 minutes, and that one might be a paid episode. But I said I'd ask each guest permission. If they didn't want that, that was fine with me. But this guy just he didn't get what I was saying, or he wouldn't listen. And I said it was fine. He didn't have to do that. And he tried to control my podcast, and he wanted me to just do everything for free. He didn't want me selling in my book, even my book on there. So it was ridiculous. So, and I want to remind people like what a real grifter is. A grifter is somebody that is purposely deceiving people. And a lot of times, almost all the time, they're either on one party or the other, and they don't talk about both parties, and they leave like a little slither of information out. And then, and just so they can get more views and they're not blacklisted, and then they get more money. Or like, especially like the worst, which I really hate grifters, like especially like Tim Pool and Ben Shapiro, getting $7,500 from BB, for the episode to talk good about Israel. So I'm definitely not a fucking grifter. So I just wanted to point that out here. So, but anyways, yeah, if you want to support me here, just my website is kwholin.com. That's where you can find my book, and you can also find it on Amazon too if you want to go there. So yeah, I got that up, and yeah, you can just hit books, and then right here you want the unabridged or the abridged. So now I'm gonna update this. I know it's kind of ghetto here, so but you can search it directly in Amazon too if you want to get it. So there you go. And again, like I said, they blacklist my book and they keep on removing my reviews. So if you want to get the reviews on this book, just go to goodreads.com. So all that stuff. So yep. But yeah. So that ends the BD in Mind podcast. And We'll see you next time.